All right, hey folks, we're going to continue working on the adventure design here for the Eberron adventure. That's going to be publishing on the DMsGuild as soon as we get it done. The DMsGuild is... And just give me a hot second here to boost some signals to the Twitter and to the Discord teams that I like. I'll just take a moment here. But so we've been designing some little encounter vignette maps that are things that you can just drop into the environment. The whole adventure is designed to be modular. It can be ran as a one-shot adventure, but for the large part, it is designed to span multiple sessions, as many sessions as you want, to be able to just drop it into your campaign. So I think I got that, and I got that there. I think I have all my stuff lined up. Full windows. Right now, we're just gonna wet our whistle with some light mapping. But our goal is to actually dive into the text of the piece. Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual composition of this thing. So here's the actual adventure laying out we're working on. That shouldn't get that out of the way. Here, that's fine. That's fine. Let's see. So yeah, we're looking at the full span of the adventure. It goes across 4 acts. Right now, we're just building the connective tissue to flesh out how to transition from one section to the next. Starting off at the front of this thing, me and Andy, we've been working on this crystals at the bar of the Mabar. You'll have the intro, the table of contents, credits, and legal stuff. And then we go into the adventure synopsis, where we've been building our own map for this. It talks about just the general setup of the adventure. It talks about specific mechanics that exist inside of the campaign, the crystal plague itself, how it works, what the effects do, DCs that you have to make against it. Then there's the crystals of Mabar, the substance that's produced, and what kind of resources you can build from it, why it'd be interesting. Emerald claws involved, let's talk about them. I am Mabar, an artifact that the Emerald Claw is using to control the manifest zone. The lab where this is taking place at, the map, the forest, these are being worked on. The different key points throughout the encounter. Then the 6 different hooks. A quick synopsis of what each hook is, and then a deeper dive into each hook and what the hook provider's interest in the scenario is. Let me fix that. Got a new setup, and I've been working on it, so we'll see how well that works out. So we got the hooks. You got 6 hooks. The general tone of why they're involved. The objectives for that hook inside the adventure, the resources that you gain if you're utilizing that hook, and then the resources the rewards that you get for completing that hook's task. There's 6 of them, and then once you get through the hooks, it goes into the actual content itself. The actual adventure location, the different points inside of the adventure, and then we start going into the different scenes. It starts off in a thorpe in a forest, and then you go into the forest, leading through. Here's the thorpe that you could start off in, depending on which hook you're using, or some of the hooks has you skipping the thorpe and has you start directly inside the forest, but each of the locations in the thorpe has its own little flavor text and things that can happen as clues for you. Then you get from the thorpe, heading towards the lab and obstructing locations. Here's the rough map. So we're talking about what can happen inside the forest to expedite it as a single encounter. Then we're looking at specific expanding encounters. Like you could easily spend a whole session in the thorpe, and then another session in the forest, and then another session exploring each obstacle point on your way to the lab. And then once you're in the lab, you could spend a whole session there as well. So you can pull out 6, potentially 5, 6, or you can continue to extend it beyond just 4 and 5 encounters, sessions if you wanted to. But there's additional encounters that are added in to flesh out the forest, to pad time if you want to spend a full session inside of it. And then once you get through the forest, you get into the actual manifest zone itself, and the different obstacles that you face as you go through it. There's a moat, like a swampy area. There's a cemetery. Here's all the different points on the cemetery. Inside the cemetery, there's a crypt, and all the different points inside of the crypt. And as an alternate obstacle location, there's a fortress that you can engage with. And then here's all the different points of interest inside of the fortress. And once you get through the fortress, ultimately you want to get to the lab entrance. Here's the different points of interest in the lab entrance. And then there's additional optional encounters that can occur between the cemetery, the fort, the lab, among the moat. So we worked on this map previously, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different encounters that we can work on. Right now, we're wetting our whistle, as it were, with one of the optional encounter location maps to have encounter 1 and 2 sequenced through. So this is a little, like a gazebo sort of map vignette that you can just drop onto your map, either into your VTT or onto your tabletop map. So I'm just going to pick at this for a little bit, get myself up to speed, feel comfortable with where we're at. Probably spend maybe, let's put 20 minutes on the clock. Let's put 20 minutes on the clock to work on this. And then we'll go into the actual adventure itself. So I am setting a timer for 20 minutes. Start. So we're just going to do some black and white imagery. So when you're printing, if you're printing this encounter, or in adventure in general, let's make sure our font size is 10. When you want to print out an adventure for use on tabletop, you may not want to print it in color because of the expenses involved with printing in color. So Courtesy has you create a map in print that is only line art to make it easy on your printer or your pocketbook if you're going out someplace to print things. But since this is also going to be compatible and have separate image files available for VTT, I'm a Roll20 guy myself, so I'm always dropping stuff into Roll20. And so those would, of course, obviously, it's as a published adventure, be full color. So right now, for the design of this, all we really want to do is have just basic black and white art as though it's going to be printed. That makes it easy for us to continue with the production of the actual content. And then while it's off at editing, and once it gets back from editing and goes into layouts, then we can actually go through the process of doing full color to make it just look super crisp, pretty. So having said that, that's what we're digging at here. These are little, let's do it like this. I'm gonna do stairway. I can't just have these squares because that doesn't that language doesn't read properly. Like on the eye, it doesn't read accurately as to what is it that we're looking at here. So if we add stairs, it suddenly provides more information and language about what we're actually seeing here being depicted on the map. These are old structures. They're only a few hundred years old each, but the corrosive effect of the manifest zone of Mabar is expediting the decay and wearing, the weathering of the stones in this mustard gas sort of malady that's infecting the region and causing creatures and people to get sick. And of course, this sickness is brought on by the poison that's being released into the environment by the manifest zone's presence. And so the DC table that I spun back at the beginning of the adventure provides a quick reference table for you to know, like, this is like this far in. This is like as you go from act to act and each different obstacle zone, it requires you to make a saving throw when you enter the area, and depending on how affected you already are by the plague, then it has an accumulative effect. And you can spend resources like cure spells and time with medicine kits and stuff to remove those maladies, but that's time spent or spell slots blown trying to keep your crew healthy, just moving through the environment itself. So it's designed to tax your resources so that you're never at 100%, so that you're always on the decline, so that threats that you encounter that may not be too difficult individually accumulate over time to become a larger and larger threat as you get whittled further and further down. And so depending on what hook you use depends on how locked in you are to your time. Like normally you could take a long rest to be able to regain resources in an extended adventure campaign format. But if you're running this as a one-shot, then obviously long rests are... one-shots generally don't have you taking long rests to regain resources. They want to move you through a one-day encounter and are paced to drain your resources accordingly. So depending on how you're scaling the time in the adventure depends on how dangerous these maladies are to you in the environment. And I can actually reduce this. I think I want to do that in general. I like that idea. I'm going to take these and move them to the middle. Transform, reduce. Stir it up pretty good. I got a lot of coffee here. This is going to be probably a 2-hour session. It's 12:45 here, so a little less than 2 hours left. I'll be done at 2:30. We do a lot of different things on this stream. We do a lot of artwork on this stream. We do theory crafting and subclass design. We do a lot of 5-color mana spell point variant rule mechanics, like with different types of rangers. And we've got a sorcerer, a spell point sorcerer that we're constructing. Next week or so, we're going to be looking at the initial draft of the Martial Powers book that's in development that creates mana effects for the martial and hybrid casting classes, so that every class can utilize color mana in the Strixhaven or Ravnica or Theros setting. So if you like the cut of this jib, like, subscribe, follow the link to see all the different books that have already been published that involve color mana mechanics, and the larger library of books that I've produced in general with various spellcasting variant rules and different subclass designs. I've been publishing stuff on the DMsGuild for 2 years now, and I do, for the most part, I do all the writing, artwork, layouts myself. Sometimes I hire a crew of people to help me with a book, like in the Pax and Patrons of Ravnica. I had an awesome crew of a few different writers and editor that helped in the building of the book. Most of the mana mechanic books I do myself, and then hire an editor to help make sure that the proofreading reads well. This book, I've got Andy Healy, old goat, who does a lot of Cthulhu type of adventures. So this whole Mabar Manifest Zone thing was right up his alley. But it's, in the Eberron setting, which is a lot of fun. And so he and I have been working on the descriptive text and the mechanic design of the different monsters and the different type of plant life and stuff that occurs inside of the adventure space. It's a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So if you're getting into game design, or if you're interested in 5e, or if you just want to see how making sausage of adventures and subclass design, stick around, like, subscribe. That's what I do almost on virtually every morning on the weekdays before my job starts, my day job. I'll log on and do artwork like this. I do occasional late night jams for doing game mechanics and subclass options. You can check down in my playlists the elemental key monks that I created using 4 elemental magic, and there's also the different color mana rangers. I've been doing some redesigns for various monks in the player's handbook, all using color mana mechanics, and that is an expanding and growing project. I'll eventually have all the monks from the player's handbook and other official supplements like Tasha's and XGE. I'll have all those published as color mechanic options, and then we'll have the opportunity to expand on that in March next month. Since the elemental key monk had been published, and I finished up the shadow monk as well as the sun soul monk, I will be playing with making Strixhaven athletes out of monks, using them in a hybrid spellcaster paradigm so they can get access to the Strixhaven College spell lists to be added to their monk disciplines, which is technically you have to be a caster to have Strixhaven spells, so there's not a lot of synergy for a monk's key with the Strixhaven options as written, so we have to rebuild the monks to be half casters so that they can access the Strixhaven knowledge and become actual Strixhaven casters. So that is one of the projects that we're working on, and from there we'll be able to build out Mage Tower into a more interactive challenge than what's presented in the book, to be able to make it an actual PvP competition, or like as one-shot throwdown for just playing with different level characters. I'm thinking a Magecraft or a Mage Tower campaign would be a scaling level system where every time your team raises in the ladder, they gain a tier. Like they start off at 5th level, then they go to 10th, and then they go to 15th, and then they go to 20th level, so that you're constantly scaling up the level, so that the championship is 20th level, semifinals is 15th, quarterfinals is 10th, and then general scrims is at 5th level. So and it would be ideally it'd be like a West March where you have a pool of players, and then they just break into teams, and then you have your character builds, and then you run a match, and then you scuttle the teams so that different players are working together, so there's no like clicks. You don't want to have clicks form. If you have a pool of 8 players. You want to have them mixing it up and interacting with each other, so that they're all remaining friendly with each other, and so that the competition stays impersonal. You don't want to fight the same dude week after week after week, and if he is a better tactician than you, then you're going to get a grudge against him. But then you want him on your team, so you don't want to have a bidding system where the best players is picked out, and then the worst player is left for last, because that feels bad. You want to randomize it. So that's the general idea. There. How are we doing on time? We still got 6 minutes left, so we're going to keep poking at this, and then we're going to just you're just going to see how I tool through the document and find things that need updating, and how that update process happens, because there's still a lot of work to do. Right now we're looking to do cleanup on the first half of the adventure, so we can hand that off to editing, and we're going to be doing more playtesting for the 3rd and 4th act here later this month. I have a couple different volunteer groups that have helped make the first half of the adventure a more efficient ride for the players, and to help clarify language for the DM that's going to be obtaining this. But it's formatted in such a way that it's designed for professional DMs to be able to have it as a resource that they can run multiple times, and they can, like as a 1 or 2 shot adventure, there's a lot more content here than what's actually needed to get from the intro to the finale. So if it's content that you enjoy, then you have the opportunity to implement more of it, or switch out what the challenges are, and condense down what you like most, or what characters you see come to the table. We'll have some pre-generated characters that can run through as a one-shot, and then suggestions about what kind of characters would be appropriate for each of the 6 hooks that are there in a more extended campaign, as well as suggestions on how to extend the campaign. So that once they get through this adventure, where they can take hooks further to help build on the themes that are presented and the different characters, because you can insert NPCs into the adventure space that are like opposing teams of heroes, adventuring groups that are operating with different hooks. So if you can work with them, or if you are an adversary against them, you can either potentially take the resources that they have, or get access to the rewards that their hook is providing. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and a lot of ways for you to be able to mix it up. But we're building it in a modular format, so that you can take what you want, leave the rest, add things in, take them out. There's very few points that are actually critical to the adventure, but there's many ways to be able to add those things onto each other. So that's the process that we're working through, and give me another 5 minutes here to finish up what we're working on right now. Got that, and then we're going to have that there. Mushroom patch called Yellow Caps that we have an illustration for. You can check down in the earlier videos in this playlist for the illustrations that we were doing for the different type of plant life that is growing in this environment mutated by the Mabar manifest zone. And so this is one of those patches of mushrooms called yellow caps. And we'll put another one over here. That is a fire going on in the background. I am blessed to have a wooden fireplace, and it is absolutely wonderful. I love fireplaces. Love bonfires, fire pits. Just like fire. Just like burning things. I lived in the finished basement in my home growing up was my bedroom, and there was a wood burning fireplace next to the bed, and that was wonderful in the winter time to put the logs on and just let it burn. Super fun. About 2 minutes left here, and then I'm going to hop over and start working on text. There, and I'm going to create a new layer. Another one of the malign plants that grow in these manifest zones is it's called ferrous ivy. It's a blackroot plant that cuts like daggers and is strong as steel, but it just naturally grows. It's very difficult to get rid of. If you're a Planescape fan, it'll sound familiar to you. I can't remember the name of the plant in Planescape, but it was definitely inspired by the same substance. So hey, there's my timer. All right, just gonna finish up this this content here real quick. There we go. There. Spread out. Maybe that's a little. We'll do that instead. And we'll rotate it. Nice. All right, so we're going to let that one sit for now. We're going to, let's see. Here's the sinkhole that we had designed that we shown earlier. And I'm going to call this one net 1 gazebo. I don't know if that's how you spell gazebo or not, but that's what it is. So we're going to hit save there. And let's see, how do we have our stuff stacked? Video capture, full screen. Okay, so I should be able to. We're here, and then we're here, and then we're here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to set my pen down, ruffle my hair, shake it out. Let's see. We got the encounters. I'm pretty happy with the encounters here. These are the optional encounters. The document file purchase the adventure here includes a package of 6 stone structure, 6 SIX under 10, 6 stone structure vignettes create random encounters throughout the plague moat illustrated below, and then we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One here, another one here, and then another one here. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just small illustrations of each of them. These small maps can be placed in VTT or printed. Can be placed on. Can placed into into a VTT environment, or printed and placed atop a tabletop map surface as terrain the characters and NPCs can use as obstructions and opportunities to battle or evade. Evade creatures encountered in 1 and 2 detail below. So you got the Carnathy Patrol, and you got the Undead Amok. We're working on, when Andy and I get back together for a new design jam, we're going to flesh out if you're able to sneak up or hear the guards before they approach, they're always talking about something because they're bored patrolling. So they're always talking about what's on their mind, which gives you information and insights in the adventure for how you can, instead of having to fight them, which you absolutely are welcome to do, but instead, if you want to have a social encounter, these things are feeding you information about what they think is going wrong with the place or what their attitude about it is, so you can use that as a narrative tool for you to be able to build social encounters from. Ideally, when you run this thing, when it gets built, you'd be able to run it through with no combat. Even the finale, you'll be able to go through and use either social or exploration challenges to complete the adventure, or you could use all social encounters, or you could just use raw combat, or as like stealth and fetch missions, you can go through and use exploration encounters. And so you can pick your path as you're going through. You can like sequence them, so like you have a combat encounter here, then you have a social exploration encounter here, then you have exploration only encounter, then you have another combat encounter. You can go through and you can sequence what kind of challenges the team is facing as they go through it. So I'm pretty good with the encounter. Like again, so we're going up to, we have Act 3 that will begin, and I'm rewinding back through the substance. So scene 2 summary, second dome, act. I was using the term scene, but we switched it to acts to be more Act 2 summary. Whether the characters use how to word this, when the characters find a way into the underground lab, they move the adventure transitions into Act 3. Three paths from Act 2 into 3. Cemetery, secret passage leading. Cemetery secret passage. Fortress, underground tunnel, topside entrance, page X, above, page X, above, page X, above. These are things that'll hyperlink, so that you'll be able to click them and they'll immediately take you to the relevant page. When you're building documents, you can create hyperlinks to lead people from place to place. So I'm going to go to here and need reference. These are the little comments that we make so that we remember what we need to update, that the editor doesn't need to worry about, but these things get strung up during the page layout. So once we figure out what the actual content of the adventure is, then we can see how each page can contain that content, and then that gives us what page number they're all going to be on, and then you can create a hyperlink inside the document so that when you click on it, it'll automatically jump you hyperlink style to that page inside the PDF. So you're able to hop back and forth throughout the document, taking you from position to position to get information that you need on demand. So that's one of the cool things you can do with PDFs that you can't so easily do with printed books. Top side. There. And then Act 3, the cast of NPCs. We're going to get to Act 3 later. Right now we're still working on Act 2, concluding Act 2. Beep, beep, beep. Trigger whoa. There. Get the Tree of Woe. We'll be building a map for the Tree of Woe and the Gutted Colossus this week in the mornings. So tune in or subscribe below so you can see more of this mapping process that we have. More of this mapping for the Colossus and for the Tree of Woe encounters that we're building. We already have you can see it here. We already have the Sinkhole Chamber map encounter. Optional encounters, that's good. Now we're looking at the top side entrance. We already built this out, so that's good for now. Here is a map of the top side entrance and the camp that's built around it. Let's see. We'll have image illustration. We're having images of each of the encounter locations, like a quarter page, just mood image, so that you have an idea what these things look like. Like you can hand them out for people to look at. Let's see, fortress, exploring the bunker barricade. And hot wire. Okay, cool. So we are currently fleshing out the fortress. Here is an illustration of the fortress map in black and white. Of course, this will be full color. So there's 8 points. The team is approaching this roughly from the south, the forest. Here, let's go back up. So when you build this, depending on how you're structuring it, how much time you actually want to spend inside the adventure, there is the cemetery and crypt, and there's the fort. And you can reverse the positions, but we're going to make a better map here. But you may or may not start in a thorp. Regardless of if you start in a thorp or not, some of the adventures have you just teleporting in directly into the forest with a guiding stone that's like basically like a locate manifest zone spell on it that will just guide you like a compass to where you need to go. Making it very computer RPG type arrow pointer, go here sort of thing, which is great for like a one shot or if you're trying to expedite the adventure, and depending on how the hook is set up. So going through the forest into the manifest zone itself, also known as the plague moat, where vegetation is rotted to basically like a muddy soup. Makes it easy to track creatures through, makes it difficult terrain for you to move through, so it's a literal slow slog going through the environment. But you can rotate these things, so you can either drop the crypt out altogether and have the team get in line with where the fort is at. If you don't want to have the crypt or the fort in the adventure, you just want to lead them directly to the lab, that's great because that expedites the sequencing of the adventure. But even though you don't visit the crypt or the fort, they can still exist inside of the adventure area. So during the final act, when the team is trying to bug out, they could potentially run into Karnath military or undead from the cemetery. That is going to make exiting more challenging. So that's how that's built. Cemetery, fort, plague moat, lab entrance. So tooling back down, we're working from back to front. So right now we're going back to the fortress to see if we like how all the language sits. So Act 2, Region 3, Carnathi Fort Ruins. Image. Get that resized so it sits on the page. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so looking at this, so as detailed in the previous comment, you generally be approaching from the south, and this map could technically be angled in any sort of orientation that you want. But these are all aligned the same ways, so left equals go towards the fort. And so this is an underground tunnel that connects the underground lab to the fortress, and it is 600 feet or 200 yards from the fort to the lab, which doesn't sound like a lot of distance, but the plague mist limits vision to 40 feet, so it's difficult for you to tell how far you're progressing through it without having a compass guiding you, or tracking the movement of Carnathi soldiers, or convincing Carnathi soldiers to guide you to the lab entrance location. Or you can go through the fortress underground and get into the inside, not from the top side entrance, but from the bottom. So it's flooded. Here's the water line where the water starts to accumulate. You can see that there's a drizzle that leads from, you got 300 feet worth of map that's skipped. And then so here is the last 300. Here's like the last 150 feet. And here is the front 150 feet that takes you to here, which is the bunker door. And here's another bunker door, so you can close off this tunnel at the front and back end of it. The Emerald Claw's been dumping bodies in here as a convenient place to get them out of the way. And of course, the manifest zone is animating them as undead, so this place is getting packed full of undead. They shuffle their way down the passage, and they find here at point 7 there's actually a breach at the top of the tunnel that's corroded away because of the effects of the plague moat, and that point actually leads here. So this whole area is a spillway. That's why there's water flooding the area, because it's trickling in from the plague moat. It's raining on top of all the matter rotting away, so it's creating this swampy, poisonous sludge that's now pouring into this underground tunnel. But no one has eyes on it, because they're just using it as a dumping ground, so they're not really spending time in there. There's a top-side entrance back up here. There's a hatch that they can open up and toss bodies into, and at some point, one of the guards on the interior are going to notice, oh, there's water in there. That's bad news. But as long as the bunker door remains closed, they don't really care. If that bunker door opens, all that water and undead pour out into the lab, which is a fun little thing you can do as a change to the environment during the encounter that either the players can pick up on as something clever to do, or you as the DM can do to them to make their life more difficult during the encounter. That's basically flood the place with water and undead surfing through it with them. But assuming that stays shut, then this whole tunnel leads up to this caved, this basically shelled out, caved in. You have all this debris that acts as a sort of ramshackle, difficult terrain ramp that you can climb out of. But they have the bunker doors secured, and they have basically a bunch of trash reinforcing it to make sure that nothing's able to break out of it, because they know there's undead in the tunnel. They're putting it there themselves. They just don't know about this breach yet because they don't go in there. This breach is leaking out, and you can see that there's a camp that they have set up here with an air purifier that's a magical zone of clean air that they can take off their gas mask and breathe easy in the environment and eat food and blah de blah. But so they don't really roam around unless they have their gas masks on. And so the undead can come out of the swampiness and basically attack them. So if your team gets bogged down with poor negotiations or if you're deciding to resolve the fort with combat and they're having too easy of a time, which they should have an easy time at 8th level against these guards, the undead that come out of the moat will help escalate the challenge of that encounter. But assuming that they're able to resolve all this and work their way through the fort, there's ladders here that lead down to the lower level that then allow them to pull rubble aside and breach the bunker door and then go into the tunnel and then take the tunnel down and then get into the water. To then they're here at point 8. There's a door mechanism that can open it. So we are looking at, there's one, and then point number 2 here basically discusses about, like, this is the direction to travel to go find the topside entrance to the lab. So this is a point where they would run away into the mists. If they aren't able to contain all the soldiers and some of them get away, this is the way that they would go. And this is just general ruins. So we're going to look at all the different data points here that we have for the different encounter areas. We are going to have a reference to how plague mists affect the area here. And then there is the fort itself. So I'm just going to pick through here and just start chewing on this stuff. So strap in. We're doing the job. This is making sausage. Successful 18 stealth dexterity check will allow a hero to sneak into a position to gain some knowledge. Let's see. Fort squad mana filter. That is the wind vein. .20-foot radius area, and it costs a 1. Let's see. Let's see. Fortress. How we have this written here. These ruins are what remains of the fort that once protected the underground lab. An underground tunnel leads to the lower level of the lab. See Act 3, Area X. Reference. An underground tunnel leads to the lower levels of the lab, but now the tunnel is flooded with rainwater and has been used as a place to dump bodies before they rise as undead. Soldiers stationed here. Let's see. An underground tunnel leads to the lower levels of the lab. But now the tunnel is flooded with rainwater and has been used as a place to dump bodies before they rise as undead. Soldiers stationed here at the top, are guarding against anyone getting. Restart that. Against getting any closer. It's 1:30 now. We got another 40 minutes. Has been used as a place to dump bodies before they rise as undead. Soldiers stationed here are guarding against anyone getting any closer to the topside lab entrance, further within the plague moats, but are also keeping an eye on the tunnel. If the undead become a problem, they can get reinforcements from the guards at the topside entrance. Characters can, and then some. Let's see how I express this. Guiding. What would we call this? Keynotes. What would this be listed as? Options. Character options to engage the encounter. We'll go with that for now. There might be a better way of wording that. That's what we'll do for now. We already have these laid out. Go back down to the map, make it a little bit smaller. Characters can attempt avoiding the patrol station here on the way to the top side entrance. See region 4 below. Characters can attempt to defeat or sneak past the guards to enter the underground tunnel. To explore the fort and enter the underground tunnel. See fort area 6 below. Characters can attempt to defeat the guards and use their uniforms as disguises to approach the topside entrance. Characters can attempt to convince the guards to escort them to the topside entrance. Fort map. Plague mist effects. Characters. DC 14 plus what is the modifier? Comments. Need reference. Squad of mercenary soldiers are stationed at this fort as a checkpoint for patrols in the forest and the plague moat, as well as guarding, as well as monitoring the tunnel. Tunnel for potential undead activity. Morale is low. Morale is low. The horses. Let's see. Morale is low. The horses mercenaries had ridden in on have either broken free and ran away from the thickening plague winds or died from overexposure to the necrotic effects. The soldiers are limited to moving on foot, are reliant on the wind vanes to provide fresh air, and the crushed florets filling their plague masks to stave off the effects of the plague wind. Let's see. The soldiers are limited to moving on foot and plague wind. Avoiding hostilities is likely to force a surrender as it is to incite hostility. I need to reword that. Characters attempting to use intimidation or so what I need to do. The mists and the plague mode are, I need to, I have the plague mist effects, I have Carnathy Fort Ruins, character options to engage the encounter, plague mist effects. Where do I want to place this? Positioning things in a logical order is important so that you're leading the DM through the thought process of how this region operates. So you have the introduction, the image, the general information about it overall. Probably have plague mist effects next. Yeah, this makes sense. Approaching the fort. The mists in the plague moat region are thick, limiting visibility to 40 feet. Where'd I have that? patrols. Let's make sure I have the language that's clean, cited in the description to reinforce the language below. These zones are what remains of the fort that once protected the underground lab. An underground tunnel leads to the lower level, but now the tunnel is flooded with rainwater and has been used as a place to dump bodies before they rise as undead. Soldiers stationed here are guarding against anyone getting closer. Lab entrance within the plague moat are also keeping an eye on the tunnel. And is a checkpoint between the underground, between the topside lab entrance, between the forest and the top, between the forest and the topside entrance. Good, and then there, and then there, and then there. Okay, great. Plague mist effects, have that. Approaching the fort. Dozens of tracks, scores. Thank you. Let's restart. It is 1:30, so we got another half hour. And then I'll go offline and continue this work on my own, but we're making sausages. So we're looking at how this stuff works together. Mic check, mic check. Good, good. Good, good. The fort is a checkpoint for patrols in the forest and the plague moat. The ground is full of tracks leading to and from the fort, making it easy, DC-10, to follow any number of track sets to this location. The mists of the plague moat region are thick, limiting visibility to 40 feet. The fires of the Karnathi camp are stifled by the fog effect of the mists. Once the characters are within 200 feet of they can passive perception 15 will reveal sense the fires. Cooking food in the air. Once the characters are within 100 feet of the fort, passive perception of 10 will sense the fires. Smell of food and muffled conversation from the camp location 1 below. Once the characters are within 50 feet of the fort, these indicators will be obvious. There is a 1 in 6 chance a patrol of 1d4 plus 2 Karnathi soldiers are either arriving or leaving. There's a 1 in 6 chance a patrol of let's arrange this a little bit better. So the further away you are, so what'll happen is when, well, you'll see it in a minute. You'll see it. Karnathi patrol. If a patrol is arriving or departing from the fort, they are %50 chance of either. There will be 1d4 plus 2 Karnathi, 1d4 plus 2 soldiers. They are towards or arriving from the topside entrance, forest, or plague mode. I can actually come down here and grab language from the patrol language we have in the random encounter area. So I'm just going to go fetch that. There. The mists are dense and limit vision to 40 feet, granting advantage on stealth checks unless the characters carry sources of light, which impose disadvantage, and passive perception will notice the light within. The soldiers will have plague masks, each stuffed with 4 doses of the cleansing potpourri of the potpourri, as well as 2 lanterns between them to provide visibility in the unnatural gloom. If attacked, one of the soldiers with a lantern will flee towards the fort. While the remaining guards fight or attempt interrogating the PCs about their purpose in the area. If the fleeing soldier is able to reach the fort, 200 feet equals 60. 60 feet per round, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds. Another round. 4, 5. Equals 4 rounds. 100 feet equals 3. That's 60. 2 rounds. If the fleeing soldier is able to reach the fort, the soldiers at the camp will mobilize in 2 rounds and arrive at the character's location. Total time at 200 feet equals 4, 8, 10 rounds. 100 feet equals 6 rounds. 40 feet equals 4 rounds. One of the soldiers at the fort will flee to the top side entrance to alert the guards stationed there. And reinforcements will arrive from there within 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That is a technical term, 5 minutes. So if the team isn't able to resolve the guard, and if the guard gets to the fort, then the fort, if the tattletale, if the I don't know what the right word for that would be, but if one of the guards is able to get to the topside entrance, then they become aware and on alert. And then if that isn't able to be resolved before one of them is able to go underground, then the guards in the facility will become aware that there's a potential threat as well. So everything is going to become at disadvantage, like any kind of bluff checks, disguising, things like that. That's all going to become disadvantaged if they give away their position like that. So that's why there's so minimal of a chance of it happening. The DM wants to be the DM is in control of that option, so that they can either increase, like if it's been too easy for the players up to that point, or if it's a combat focused adventure, then having their cover blown like that escalates the likelihood of combat. If it's a social or exploration focused challenge, then it's basically how, if it's been too easy for them exploring, this makes it more difficult. If it's a social focused challenge, then having everyone be immediately hostile to your efforts is not going to benefit the adventure. So you want to have less random chance of happening as you go through. And these are going to be notes that we'll have in the adventure as we go along. So give me a moment here. Character options to engage the encounter. Does this feel like the right place? Would the Carnathy patrol be before or after options to engage the region? I feel like character options to engage. Defeat or rob. To avoid the patrol stationed here on the way in. Yeah, I feel like this should be before the rest of it. Here. Even before the Plague Mists. That. Okay, region. Character options to engage the region. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Now you know what your environmental effects are that's going to limit your ability to achieve these goals. Some of the initial threats about being able to set up how the patrols will act if they're encountered to approaching the fort, and then you have the actual fort map. Cool. Guard camp. Guard camp. I feel like all this stuff should be in the camp itself. $152. We have a few minutes left before we're going to kick. Fort map. All right. Hey, you know what? I'm just about out of time, so I'm going to cancel here and here. Bloop, bloop. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call it quits here for now. This is our adventure design camp. So this is making an adventure. You can see some of the process that we go through, some of the logic that goes into it. We're going to be making more maps in the mornings during the weekdays. So go ahead and subscribe, and you can catch those at least an hour a day. Typically Monday through Friday, we build maps, simple maps like these, and this. We built that, and then we'll be building this as well, and then we'll be building 5 more simple maps similar to this that will take up a similar amount of space that can just be dropped into the map in these mists, since the visibility is so limited. They just kind of crop up on you. And then we'll also be taking time during the week at various points to dig further into text design here. And then in the evenings, I work on other projects, 5-color mana variant rules, spellcasting mechanics, subclass designs, spells, items, and different adventure ideas. Mostly working with 5-color mana, but there's some other projects that we'll be working on as well. So if you're liking some of this stuff, subscribe, follow me on Twitter below, tell someone you know, and hoping to see you guys around here later. Thanks a lot.